information. And that's very rude of me. And what I was discovering was that leopard territories, we often talk about leopard territory sizes. And I was just looking, you know, we always say that the leopards in drier areas have much bigger territories, but I've actually got some numbers here. And what we have is leopards of this area, in my experience, have probably territories of about 100 or 1,500 hectares or so. You can multiply that by 2.4 if you're sufficiently awake to get the acres. And this book says the Sabi Sands, I mean, some of this research is quite old now. It says 23 square kilometers, which is 2,300 hectares. Now, Djuma is 1,200 hectares only. So, Karula's territory, we know, extends, well, it's not quite double. It's probably almost 1.5 times the size of Djuma. So, call it 1,800 hectares or so. Roughly, that is 18 square kilometers. But you go up, if you go into the Kalahari, which is the southern end of the Namib Desert, or into the Richtersveld, or into the Cape Fold Mountains, and you find that a female's territory will extend up to 487 square kilometers. That is 48,000 hectares. That's the same size just about as the Sabi Sand. That's the female. And the males will have even larger territories in some dry areas of 1,370 square kilometers. That is 130,700 square hectares. Now, if you just do a quick sort of back of the cigarette multiplication there, I mean, we're looking at roughly 300,000 acres for one male territory. That is massive. It really is an enormous piece of land. It is twice the size of the entire Sabi Sand. And in the Sabi Sand, we reckon there are probably at least, say, 25 to 30 territorial females, and males probably about a third of that. So it just gives you an idea of the different territory sizes that occur around the country. Right. The other thing Craig found, yes, Craig did find this too, was a mushroom. Let's have a look under the microscope. There it is. That is the gills of the mushroom that you can see. I unfortunately managed to crush this thing while I was trying to look at it under the microscope. I apologize for that, Craig. And I think those brown things, and certainly Craig, I think was in agreement with this, that those brown things there in the gills are the spores that haven't quite been deposited yet. I think that's what they are. Tiny, tiny little spores that will have been tossed to the wind and will go and help this mushroom to reproduce itself in various parts of the world, mostly in the immediate environs. So that's what's going on there. And I'll just show you this poor mushroom. I don't know what species it is. I'm going to try and find out again when you're off air. There it is. And I've been learning a little bit about the parts of a mushroom. I remember doing this in university, in first year university. That thing there is called a ring or annulus. You can see that little sort of gap there in the stalk. The stalk is called a stalk, interestingly enough. And then this little part here is called the cup or base. And you can see that's the bit that sticks into the ground and from which the spore will eventually produce a new mushroom. Very nice. And the top is called the cap. Excellent. Apparently, the wildebeest that is VM has suggested a taste test to find out what kind of mushroom that is. That's a really bad idea, of course. Don't ever go tasting mushrooms in the bush unless you know exactly what they are. They can kill you very quickly if you don't know what they are. There are a few edible species of mushroom out here. No idea what they are. I've asked Herbert. He says, look, he's a bit dodgy on it too, so he wouldn't try and eat any of the mushrooms out here. And if Herbert wouldn't eat any of the mushrooms out here, there's probably only one man who would, and that would be Steph. And I don't think that even he would eat the mushrooms out here. He would eat just about anything else you feed him out here, but not a mushroom. So I'm not going to eat that. I am still going to try and discover exactly what species it is. Now, I'm just going to quickly tell you, remember, I did tell you that I was going to do, in fact, I'm going to tell you about this later. Tristan's got the hyena that's been calling just outside the tent here.
So we've managed to locate another hyena, and this one actually looks like a female that could potentially have young ones. I don't know if you see on the belly there's a slight bulge, so it looks like she's got milk at the moment, which would be quite interesting. We're actually in an area where they used to have a den. It's just off of Gari, Maine. There was a den that used to be here for quite a long time, and so I wonder if she's not coming to sniff around for any sort of sign of a place where they can put the den. It would be quite nice if they came back and denned in this area. It's a pretty little part of the world and a really nice den, and it would be really great to have hyenas back and denning on Djuma. So I'm hoping that this hyena is kind of coming to sniff around here, but definitely got signs that it's got little ones at the moment. Just trying to see, it disappeared behind this bush. You see it, Jandre? So I believe it started running. Yeah. So as Jandre was saying as well, there is an old den site. I'm just going to try and loop around and see. Never know, maybe she's sneaked in here. I see there's quite a lot of tracks going up and down on the road here and where they were lying last night. So I want to just quickly have a look and see at the den. You never know. And wouldn't that be amazing if we had an active den again on Djuma? I really love hyena dens. They are absolutely value for money. They're great entertainment. The little ones are so cute. So I've never actually been to the den itself here. I just know about it because we used to see a lot of hyena activity in this area from the other side of the cut line. We're right on our southern boundary here. So when I used to be at Chitwa, we used to see these hyenas quite often on the roads, and I know that they went up here to den. So I just want to have a little quick look at the den site itself. So we're pretty much in line with where it ran. So I would imagine it was on this mound here on our left hand side. I don't see too many signs. There is a few tracks that Jandre is pointing out. And there we go, look. There is a hyena on the den. Now I'm not sure if it's got little ones, but it's sniffing around here. It doesn't look like it actually has. It's just come up and had a little sniff around. But there are tracks coming here, which is a really positive sign. Now, I wonder if she's not going to start thinking about moving her little ones to this den. You do see it sometimes with hyenas. When they are looking, they'll try and kind of find an area and then they move around. And they'll then come and pick up their young ones and bring them back. So we'll have to just keep monitoring this area and seeing. Maybe we'll end up with an active den here. But that's really exciting, and I'm really glad we came and checked. The fact that that female is sniffing around is really good news. So while we kind of just see, she's actually just come back again. So let's just see. I wonder if she's not going to call the little ones out. There is a hole just to the where she's going now. There we go. And there is quite a bit of sort of movement at that hole. And there we go, in she goes. Isn't it amazing that that massive hyena can fit in such a small little hole? So she squeezed herself in there, and I'm sure that there's young ones inside here. Just listening, I don't hear any sounds for little ones yet. But I'm very sure that there is something inside there. I'm just going to move a little bit forward so that we can get maybe get a camera down that hole and just see. But isn't this exciting? There's definitely, this hyena has definitely made its way into that hole. And let's see, there's the head of that hyena poking out. So, she, as you'll see, has got, look at that. Look at that. That hyena has just turned itself around and has parked itself in the hole. You can see it's now very comfortable. So still no sign of any young ones, but I believe a lot of the viewers are very, very excited about the prospect of a den, and that would be unbelievable. Like I say, I'm super, super happy. I hope that this will be an active den. Maybe if it's not active just yet, that she's just getting to the point where she's going to give birth. She's not very heavily pregnant if she is, but there's sign that there's milk developing there. So I would imagine that she's already got. They could be really, really small. From just the sort of entrance of the hole there, there's really not that much activity that would suggest that she's been here for a number of days. So I wonder if maybe she hasn't given birth recently. Now, Raola would like to know how deep the den is. Well, Raola, I'm not 100% sure. You know, with these kind of things, we often don't go creeping around inside there to see how deep it goes. But I would imagine it would be fairly spacious. I mean, you can see that adult female has been able to fit herself completely inside there. And she would have excavated it out so that she can give birth and the little ones have space to grow and to move around inside there. So I would imagine it goes quite deep, but it's not going to be an endless cavern and tunnel. Alright, so while we sit here and just have a look if there's any signs of young ones, we're going to go back to Jamie and see what she's got with the leopard cubs.
Oh, well, Tristan's just discovered the hyena den, potentially, of Gwen. We've just had another visitor who is actually giving me grey hairs at the moment. Good thing Hosana saw this hyena coming long ago and is now up in the top of the worst possible tree he could be in, but he is perfectly safe from this hyena. Hello, hyena. Oh, galloping around here. Oh, having a good roll. Maybe Hosana urinated or defecated there. Oh, is that nice? Is that nice? Having a jolly good rub. I'd really would have preferred if you didn't send the injured cub up into the tallest possible thorn tree with your arrival. I don't think that this hyena knew that they were here, though. He just happened to be wandering around. Back scratch. Here we go. Now that you're all filthy. They are truly comical creatures. And I'm off again. I'm off on an adventure. I'm going towards Xongile now. Xongile's in the top of the giant boerbean that we've often seen them in. He's just... Oh, bless you. Did you get some dirt up your nose by any chance? I just want to see whether or not it goes towards... No, he's going to miss Xongile completely. I don't think that he saw or smelt her. It's chaos this morning. It's all happening. Now, Xongile's up in a boerbean tree, which is a very comfortable tree. Hosana, on the other hand, is not. He's in a knobthorn tree, which is not a very comfortable tree at all. And it's such a pity because there was a perfect tambourti right next to it that he could have gone into without thorns. But instead, he has found himself perched right at the top of the knobthorn. So I'm not going to follow our hyena. I'm going to stick with our leopard cubs. Hosana is actually giving me grey hairs watching him at the top of this tree. Because he's gone all the way up now. I don't know how he's going to get down. I don't think it's going to be a very comfortable descent. I'm sure he's fine. And I noticed that after a little bit of play with Xongile, his leg was looking much better. So I think he just stretched it out, warmed it up a little bit. Now what? Oh, a day in the life of a leopard cub. 1 minute you have to give up your comfortable sleeping spot to your sister. The next you're up in a thorn tree because a hyena came walking past. I suppose it's a good thing that his sister came and woke him up. Otherwise that hyena might have succeeded in surprising him. Now what? Oh dear. I know that many of you are wondering with Hosana's sore foot whether or not he is more at risk of being caught by a hyena or something like that. I don't think his injury is too serious. We've often seen far worse on leopards. Tingana, for example, had a terrible limp for a long time. And when push comes to shove, you'll find that they're able to push past it if they really need to. I just wish he hadn't picked such an uncomfortable tree to have to try and climb down, because let's face it, Hosana hasn't shown the best tree climbing skills in the world up until now. He has a tendency to fall. So add in a couple of thorns and you've really got an awkward situation. Although hopefully he's going to just be very careful as he goes down. So he is, obviously any kind of an injury does place a cat more at risk, but I'm not too concerned about him. I just want to see that he does this descent. Oh, those thorns. No wonder you've got a sore foot. You silly. Shame. Mom, help. Ow. Oh, Hosana. Luckily you've got a furry coat. Ouch. I know exactly what it's like to be attacked by knob thorns, and it's not pleasant. At all. Oh dear. Now you've got to get your legs on the other side of that branch. That's it. There we go. Slowly, slowly. Okay, now what? Yes, eat the tree. That will help. Yep. Tell you what, you pluck away each thorn and then walk down. That will definitely help. Oh, shame. Now, he's up a tree for a very, very good reason, so it's not actually his fault that he's up this knobthorn tree, which is the most inappropriate tree he could possibly be in. Zaz, you want to know if a hyena will kill a leopard? Yes, absolutely they will if they can get hold of them, especially a leopard cub. Sorry, that was a gut reaction there. Yes, they will. And they absolutely can, and they do kill leopard cubs. Oh, Hosana. Are you going to pay for the boxes of hair dye to cover the grey hairs? No, you're not, are you? Oh, shame. You're so woebegone. At this age, these little leopard cubs could probably put up a very, very good fight. They're very strong, but they're unfortunately not quite a match for a hyena. Fortunately, they are faster. Much, much faster and more agile, even with an injured foot. Which is why they've survived as long as they have. And they're at that stage now in their lives where their chances of survival dramatically increase. So once they get to their adult stage, you actually find that there's an almost truce between leopards and hyenas. And it's not uncommon. As if it could get any worse, the woodhoopers are now laughing at him. Oh, Hosana. Yes, you often find that you get leopards and hyenas lying not far away from each other. All done. Backwards is good. Backwards is probably the way. Ouch. That's a knobthorn between the legs. There we go. Softly, softly. Still a long way, so go gently. Ow, look, it's caught in his fur. Ow. Biting back, just to show the tree that he means business. Don't jump yet. You got a sore foot. Just keep doing that. Tufts of leopard fur wafting to the ground, and Hosana is safely back on the ground. Whew. That was a bit stressful, my boy. Yes. Luckily, they're tough creatures. All animals are out here far more resilient and far tougher than a human being. He's going to be absolutely fine. And all part of the learning curve. Perhaps next time when he sees a hyena, he'll take that extra split second to think about which tree he goes into. Yes, take a good long look at it. That's a bad tree. That's a horrible tree. Next time, get into the tree on the right. You had plenty of time. Oh, poor boy. James, you want to know if his limp is prominent enough to notice in his track? I don't think so. Not yet, but I'll double check and see. He's not dragging the foot or anything like that. He's still stepping with it. You might find that it's slightly out of alignment. There might not be a normal stride distance or an even stride distance. I don't think there's going to be hugely noticeable. Glancing back in embarrassment, he's now been joined by a bird feeding party. So he was watched in his indignity by woodhoopers and helmet shrikes and all kinds of things. Okay, let's have a look at this limp. I don't see any sign of an injury. He keeps sitting down. He doesn't really want to walk. It's probably the first time that he's actually acquired a nasty injury. It might also just be that he's not quite used to it. He'll learn to power through. Little boy. Your sister's in the boerbean. Whew. Quite glad for the safe descent. I was a bit concerned at one point. Leopards do fall out of trees, and they usually are absolutely fine. It does occasionally happen that the grace and dignity is perhaps just lacking on one particular day. I can't judge them because I can barely walk in a straight line without falling over my own feet. So, you know, fair play to them. It's a bad day. His belly's empty. His legs sore, his sister's being a pain, hyenas won't leave him alone. All right, there you go. Now you found yourself a nice comfortable ditch to lie in. Oh, and now, as if the indignity couldn't be any worse, there's a go-away bird calling at him. Telling him to go away. Go away. I know, mister. Right, I'm going to go... I've completely forgot I was meant to be doing a bird list. I might have to bow out for this month. I've had far too good a leopard sighting to be worried too much about the birds at the moment. I love the birds, but what do you think, Liam? Nah, the leopards have been too good for us to tear our attention away from. Except for the puffback shrike, but that was earlier. Bless you. The other thing about knobthorn cuts, speaking from experience, is they sting. So he's probably got 1 or 2 puncture wounds that aren't feeling terribly comfortable. He doesn't seem to be licking himself, though. So I don't think, first of all, whatever's bothering him with his leg is not an open injury, because I think he'd be licking at it. And he doesn't seem to have any major cuts from coming down that tree. Having a thick fur coat, I suppose, helps immensely. All right, mister, I'm going to go and check on your sister and see that she's okay. I'm sure she's fine. It's all good news today. There's hyenas about and leopard cubs and all sorts of exciting things. Let's go and see what James makes of the morning events.
I think of the morning events that I don't want to be in a knobthorn tree. I have been cut to pieces. Brent Leo Smith is currently in a state of some scarring on account of many of the knobthorn trees that he was trying to sort of reduce around the home of the Leo Smiths in Hoedspruit. They are not nice, and when I saw the leopard in that tree, I thought that was a very unpleasant place for him to be. The other thing I wanted to say on the subject of Hosana is that the one sort of a positive, I suppose, of the fact that he's so young yet injured is that his mother is still feeding him. Now, for most leopards, of course, once they go independent, it's going to be very difficult for them to kill or scavenge with any kind of injury. Now, he obviously doesn't face that problem because his mother is still feeding him. I was just reading again in this vast tome about leopard sizes and that sort of thing. Hang on a second. I was just being warned by Rebecca that what I had under the microscope is escaping. I was reading about the fact that they so seldom, that call that they make, remember we were talking about the call earlier this morning, as much as it's a territorial marker to say this is where I am, don't come near me, it's a physical avoidance. It's a conflict avoidance mechanism. They call like that so that they don't have to meet each other, so that they know where they are, and so that they can avoid physical contact, because physical contact for two animals that powerful and that capable of killing is really disastrous for both. So if ever there's a conflict, they don't want to have physical contact. And very seldom do you see leopards actually having a fight. They'll lie next to each other and growl. In the case of Karula and Shadow, they'll spit bubbles at each other. In the case of many of the males, they will lie next to each other, sometimes for hours, growling and moving and then backing off and moving and backing off. They don't want to fight because they don't want to end up in a situation that Hosana is currently in. Right, have a look over here. This beetle, whose identification remains something of a mystery to me, because anything that looks like this in the book isn't found here. It will stop moving now, because what I'm going to do is just flick the microscope. And what they do, just come back here a sec, Rebecca. What they do is that they play dead. I'll put him back under. I've picked him up and now he's folded his legs under himself and pretended that he's no longer alive. There he is. You can see his little claws. There they are. Beautifully sharp. I shall pull the focus now down to his abdomen. There we are. And now you can see him slowly coming alive again. And I'm just going to lift him up a bit. And this is going to change the focus slightly. Lift up and we'll watch him slowly coming to life. See? Sorry, my focus is not great. Look at the mechanism. Look at the ball joint there. Two balls. That looks like a CV joint on a car. At least a universal joint. You see that? It's got two joints, both of them moving at 90 degrees to each other, which means the limb can move in any direction that it has to, but both joints must move. That is very cool. You see the top joint? It's a little bit like a ball and socket, I suppose, but it's basically moving frontwards and backwards. And then the joint that the leg is actually attached to is moving in the opposite plane. That is rather magnificent to see. That's just like the universal joint on a Land Rover. Now, there's nothing hindering him from turning over, so he can turn over. I just think he's going to struggle to do that. There's his back two legs. And you see how the entire segment that his legs are attached to is moving. Now, that'll be the back of the thoracic segment. The abdomen is the short bit behind the legs. And, of course, on a beetle, and they've got what we call, I think, a cephalothorax. Yeah, and Justin, yes, I agree with you. You say this is a fascinating joint. I'm assuming you're referring to the beetle's leg joints. Now, I put my hands closer, and so he stopped moving immediately, pretending to be deed. I'm going to touch him and watch him fold himself up again. There we go. I've touched him now, and he's folded his legs up. Let's see if he opens up his mouth there. as Rebecca says, it's like I hypnotized him. Yes, Rebecca. I'm known as the beetle hypnotizer. I'm not really. That would be not really a title one ever wants to have, I don't think. And let's just see those top joints. Let's give them a little second to wake up again. There we go. I mean, the detail in that is quite astounding, isn't it? There, the little mouth parts coming up. And the little antenna. This is just fantastic. And those front legs almost certainly not really used as legs. They're probably used much more to shovel food into his mouth. Now, cheese please, you say, why do some insects have outside skeletons? Cheese please, spelled CHZPLZ. Just bliss. You want to know why they've got a hard exoskeletons. All insects have hard exoskeletons. Now, I mean, if we look at this one, and this beetle's got a particularly hard one, but some of them are harder than others, certainly, and that's for defense. But remember, much more interestingly than the defensive nature of a hard exoskeleton, like a suit of armor, that's what this chap's got here. And we will release him, fear not. There we go, put him down. Sorry about that, Craig, I didn't warn you. An exoskeleton is crucial because they have no internal skeleton, which means that without the hard chitinous, without the hard chitinous exoskeleton, there would be no structure to the animal at all. Now, an animal cell, I don't know if you remember this from your high school biology or junior school biology. In fact, I probably need to draw this for you. Hang on a second. Come over here with me, and I'll draw it for you. Sorry, Craig, I know this is impossible when a presenter behaves in the fashion that I'm behaving now. I do apologize profusely to you. And as Rebecca says, you're Batman, so you'll be okay. He's not smiling, everyone. What are you doing moving around like that? Okay, Batman, we're going outside now. We're going to take one of these maps that we've not used too much of. Come here, Batman. Please. Of course, one does say please to Batman. One doesn't just give him an instruction. We're going to take this paper off. So, cheese, please. This might be slightly more detail than you were looking for, but I've just remembered it, and so I quite like it. An animal cell looks like that. It's kind of an amorphous thing. It's got a... so irritating. It's got a membrane around it, like that. As I remember, I think, from high school, not high school, from university days. This is what a plant cell looks like. Now, I've drawn it in a much more structured fashion, simply because it is more structured, but it's very seldom square. And it's got the same membrane, right? But then outside the membrane, it's got a wall. And that wall is made of cellulose. So that's what that is. And an animal cell does not have that cellulose. Okay, it does not have a wall, which means that it lacks structure. It does not have the same rigidity as a plant cell, and it's much more fluid. And so a plant derives its structure, its stiffness. This stalk derives its stiffness from the cellulose that is in the cell walls, okay? An animal cell just doesn't have that. It doesn't have that structure, which means it's kind of an amorphous glob. And it needs to be attached to various other things that are internal and external. Now, basically that means that if you're an animal and you need to move around, you need to maintain structure, you've got to have some kind of skeleton. We as vertebrates I've got an internal skeleton. It's inside us. We've got bones. An insect has nothing like that, and in fact, an invertebrate has nothing like that. There is no very little internal structure, and so they have to have the external skeleton in order to keep the rigidity and the structure of the body. And for things like, for example, if you look at a bat's wing or a bird's wing, they've got bones to keep the structure there. In an insect, they don't. They're kept structurally sound by chitin again, and also by hydraulic pressure. So they've got veins that run through the wings, and they're pumped full of hemolymph, which is an insect's blood. And they're kept stiff by the hydraulic pressure that's kept in those wings. So there's no internal structure. And it all boils down to the fact that an animal cell has no structure to it. It has no cell wall. And obviously inside the cells are all of the organelles, as we call them. The nucleus and the mitochondria, and what else is there in there? I can't remember what else is in there. Various bits and pieces. In the plant cell, of course, the most important organelle is the chloroplast. There we go. That's what I remember. And now I don't remember that anymore. And now my drawing is finished. Thank you so much. Good. Thank you so much. Yes. Trevor, you want to know what that beetle eats? I'm going to assume that it is either a carrion-eating beetle, or perhaps, Craig, I'm going to just ask you to come over here. It's either a carrion-eating beetle or a plant-eating beetle. I suspect that is one of the carrion-eating beetles. I think you'll probably find that it will go and find dead stuff and eat that. Beetles out here eat a variety of things. Jewel beetles, for example, eat largely plant material on acacia trees. The ground beetles are predators, so they will catch things to eat. The carrion beetles, well, they eat carrion. The dung beetles eat dung and or sort of dead and drying plant material, sort of rotting leaves and that sort of thing. So they really do eat a vast array of different things. I think that's a carrion beetle of some sort, but I'm not entirely sure. Now, over here, we have our old friend Polyrhacus. Can you see Polyrhacus there, Craig? Now, Polyrhacus, we've shown you many, many times. And I read today that Polyrhacus isn't in fact a huge plant eater. And what they're looking for, I'm sure they will drink the nectar of flowers, because I can't imagine why else they'd be on the flowers sometimes. But they tend aphids, scale insects, and tree hoppers. Now those are 3 different kinds of insects, obviously, that produce nectar, and they need to be milked, especially the aphids. They need to be milked in order to survive, and that's what these ants do. They milk them and then carry off that sticky sweet, I think it's called honeydew, basically. They'll carry that off, drink it themselves, and also carry some back to the nest. But the Polyrhacus does quite a lot of gathering of dead sticks as well for the nest. So I'm not sure that the book is entirely correct as to what they eat. I suspect there is much about those ants' lives that remains a mystery. Marvellous. Right, Jamie has found herself a hanging white and black thing in a tree.
A hanging white and black thing that belongs to a much larger golden black thing in the form of Xongile draped across the boerbean branch. And she's definitely decided to pick a much more comfortable tree than the one that her brother chose. She's up in this beautiful old boerbean, very, very high, but somehow I don't feel in any way concerned about Xongile being all the way up there. I think she's absolutely fine. And she's quite comfortable. When I first arrived here, she was sitting up and double-checking to see that her brother, I think she was looking to see that the hyena had gone A, and that B, her brother was alive and well. And now, content that he is, she has decided to stretch herself out. Oh, wait, hold on. Spoke too soon? Oh, never mind. Didn't speak too soon. She just was finding a more comfortable spot. which has made her almost invisible to us. In which case I think we'll try and shuffle round the tree to try and get a better view. Hosana's still sleeping in his ditch. He's found himself a nice comfortable spot in there. I think he will try and spend as much time as possible healing up that leg now that he's used it to climb up a thorn tree. Okay. Which way round is going to work best for you, Xongile? Let's try this way. She's in one of my favorite trees on this reserve. It is so beautiful. We've seen them in this tree before, so she knows her way around very, very well. Let us try and get around. Perhaps we can see her face. And then I think I'll probably leave our leopard cubs for now. We might check in on them before the end of the sunrise safari, but I think the play is done. And it's sleep time now. Until Karula decides to return. I might go and have a look and see if I can work out where Karula is, or at least where she has gone. Can you sort of see her there, Viam? I can't tell if I've put that branch in front of you or not. There we go. Here's little Xongile. Still alert and listening. I wonder if they spend all this time waiting, going, I can't wait for Mom to get back, I'm starving. Or if they relish the time alone. Nobody putting any pressure on them to behave, they can do what they want. It's tough having a working mum. And back to sleep she goes. I suppose I better try and catch up with the bird challenge. I think I bow out. I bow out of this month's one. It's been too good a morning. Don't you agree, Xongile? Yes. Hyena's moved off. I wonder whether or not he's going to go and visit Gwen. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I know we're looking at a leopard, sorry, but I'm quite excited about the prospect of a hyena den again, so I want to talk about it a little bit. It makes total sense that Gwen has moved off on her own again. It's exactly what she did before, last year, June, with those 2 cubs. And what that means is if she's pregnant again, it means that her cubs didn't survive. Because it would be far too early for her to have had, well, maybe not, I suppose. It is February. And she did have those cubs in June last year, possibly. But I'm very excited. And Gwen, of course, is a very low-ranking hyena in our hyena clan, which is why I think she tries to den off on her own, rather than with the rest of the clan. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm very excited at Tristan's find. It does seem as though our hyenas are spending a bit more time with us once again, which is unfortunate news for Xongile and Hosana. Might mean that they spend more time up in trees, but they're at that age now where I'm not concerned at all about the possibility of a hyena attacking them. They've got so much experience now, and they're a year old. They know how to deal with this stuff. They were up in those trees long before that hyena came anywhere near them. Sorry. Hold on 1 second. I think somebody's calling me. Standing by. Copy. Perfect. Thank you, Tristan. Are there any other stations there? Copy. Thank you, Tristan. We've got good news. Well, I hope it's good news. I hope it works for us as well. Because we're in Rusty, which might work a little bit better than Wendy, which is what Tristan's in. And Tristan has found Tundi. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go and try and take over and go and have a look at her. Because we haven't seen Tundi in ages, so it would be lovely to see her again. I love Tundi. All right, you two. You be good. Oh, dearie me. Seems as though the gremlins are attacking this morning. I might have to go through a dip. Oh, Hello, tree. Out of my face. So that's what we'll do. We'll go and see whether or not Rusty's signal is any better there. So Tristan's very kindly told me that he's going to leave a branch for me, and I'll swap out with him, and then hopefully we'll have a chance to see her. It is a live safari, so gremlins do attack every now and again. You can imagine the amount of technology involved with trying to bring you these exciting moments. Rises and falls in the landscape, the topography of the area, just makes life difficult every now and again. So as I navigate the landscape and make my way towards Tundi, let's head back to James in the tent, who's got something else interesting to show you very close up.
Much in the way of leopards going on here. Very exciting indeed. And as Jamie says, it will be the best thing if our hyenas have finally come back, and perhaps Gwen... It's not a very hyena-ish name, that, is it? Perhaps Gwen will have babies there. And you know, it's funny, when we... I'm just trying to remember, it was round about February last year that we had... No, it was before that we had... Corky, I think it was, who is a dominant hyena in the clan. She had her den on her own. She had her babies on her own off the Philemon's cutline den, and then she moved them back to the main den. I wonder if that's not what's happening here, and maybe Gwen has had her little cubs. To me, that looked like she was going in there to suckle them. They might be very, very tiny and in there already and suckling. So with any luck, we'll have little baby hyenas around here soon. I cannot wait for that. It will be great, greatly exciting. Michael, you're wondering how many young hyenas normally have. Michael, it's between 1 and 2 normally, it's hardly ever more than 2. And it's because they only have 2 teeth. So unlike the cats who have 4, or the dogs who have many more than 4, I think they've got 8. The hyenas only have 2 teats, and so they only give birth to 2. And they've got quite an interesting relationship, the youngsters. If they're born to a very dominant female, and they're both females, it's quite often that one will kill the other. Not all the time, but quite often the older one, or the one that's born first, will try and kill her sibling in something called siblicide, or canism, after... Cain. A herd, a flock of arrow-marked babblers. And you know, we so seldom see them. We hear them all the time. We never get a good look at them. Isn't that great? That was very cool. I must say, I don't know how many of you have an office out of which you can look to see, well, babblers on a bad day, nyalas, elephants, and sometimes leopards on a really good day. Anyway, so back to the number of babies that hyenas can have. Normally 2, like I say. Canism and siblicide can happen between 2 females born to a dominant, to less dominant hyenas, and it's often a male and a female born together. They'll get on with each other really well. So thank you very much for that question. Nice to have questions in the tent. Brendan Biz, you're wondering how we managed to identify hyenas. Well, you know, it's in much the same way that we're able to identify individual leopards. It's different spot patterns. They're all born with unique spot patterns. And if you go to the Djuma, I think it's called the Djuma Arathusa hyena group on Facebook. Yes, even the hyenas here have a Facebook group. Go there, and the wonderful people who've put the group together have given some amazing identifying pictures and drawn circles around the relevant spots and that sort of thing. And it makes it very easy for you to identify them once you've learnt them. So they do have distinguishing spotted marks. Yes, they have nicks in their ears and scars and that sort of thing. But those, of course, change because hyenas live lives of quite extreme violence. And the spot patterns are the best way to find out what colours they are. And thank you to all of you who do contribute to that. Sorry, I'm laughing because I'm now having to do some drawing. Rebecca, what do you want me to draw again from Kathy? A side-by-side of the head or of the entire body? Oh, right, the entire body. All right, let me just, what I'm going to do first is put the skulls out for you, Kathy, and let me just quickly finish what I was saying there about the identifying marks. A big thank you to all of you who have contributed to that hyena group. I haven't looked at it for a long time because we haven't seen our hyenas, but every time I do need to identify a hyena, that's where I go to have a look. Right, there we have a hyena. There we have a leopard, a leopardess, that's about Karula-sized. And interestingly, you can tell this is a leopardess by the fact that this archway here is much smaller than it would be on a male. A male has a much higher ridge there, and that's because of the amount of muscle required on a male's jaws. And then here we have, I mean, if ever you were in doubt as to who the dominant predator in this area is, you can't really have a question. That there, of course, is the lion. And that's a big male lion. So twice the size of the leopard, about 1.5 times the size of the hyena. There we are. So that's them. And then, Kathy, you wanted me to actually draw a size comparison of them. Kathy, well, okay, I will. You've seen my drawings, though. I'm not going to take it outside this time because the wind is a little bit breezy and strong. But I will draw one for you. If that is what you want, Kathy, that's what you'll get. Now, at least, Craig, can you see this sufficiently well? Not really. It's not ideal, is it? I'm just going to do this. Take this off. And let's see if we can't prop it up, perhaps, like so. Sorry, Kathy, the outside is just a little bit breezy. How's that? Is that viewable? But now it's falling down. This is actually disastrous. You know what? Let's just go outside and hold it in place. This must look tremendously smooth to all of you. Well practiced and well rehearsed. Right, so, Rebecca, what are we doing? We're doing lion, hyena, and leopard, are we? And a wild dog. All right, I'm really good at doing dogs, so I'm going to do the dog first. Here's the dog. There we go. Just stay here, please. There we are. That is the wild dog. You see that? Now, that is the wild dog size. The leopard is just a little bit larger. We'll try and draw it in the same aspect. And the leopard, of course, has a head and then a body. And comparatively, probably about that size there. It's got, this one is looking towards us. There we go. That's roughly the right size comparison. Female leopard. Male leopard a bit bigger. I don't think Karula would really fancy being represented in this fashion. What do you think, Craig? It's a good drawing, isn't it? Well, this can be Karula. She's 3'4". There we go. Okay, and then a lion, of course, is much, much bigger than all of those. He's, I'm going to draw him in the same way that I've drawn the leopard. You know why I can't draw everybody? It's because I have absolutely no sense of proportion. Not in any shape, way or form. And that means that although, I mean, this is roughly the proportions that lions and leopards occur in, That is basically, Kathy, the different sizes of the cats, of the predators that we have out here. Now, apparently we also need to draw the hyena, which is somewhere between the size of the leopard and the lion. In fact, this lion's not big enough. Lions are even bigger than that. But the hyena, we need to represent as somewhere between those two, so let's do it. They've got quite a square body. The tail. Some spots. They've got a terrifying set of jaws. Ropey ears. There we have it. There's the wild dog, leopard, hyena. Gosh, this must be entertaining television. Hyena and lion. There we go. So that, Kathy, is the relative sizes of the animals that we have out here. And we had a comment, I forget from whom, that the wild dog doesn't look like a dog, looks like a car that was dressed up as a dog from Dumb and Dumber. Thank you very much for that. Tristan has got one of these.
James, I'm very much looking forward to seeing your drawings. I've heard that you are quite the artist, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing what your hyena drawing looks like. I'm sure it will be exactly the same as what we are seeing here. So not much has changed at the den. This female is still just lying inside there. You can see she's got her head perfectly placed. She looks very, very comfortable. There's been no sign of any little ones so far. But it is very, very possible that they are still inside there. They might be brand new, which means we probably won't see them for the next 2 weeks. It's generally about 2 weeks until they come out. So it could be that they are inside there. They're just far too little for us to even see them. So we're definitely going to monitor here over the next few weeks and see what we get. Now, I believe some of you have ID'd this hyena. I'm not very familiar with the clan around here, but I believe some of you have ID'd her as Gwen. Now, I'm not sure on her rank and her position, but judging by her ears and the way that she has lots of bite marks all over them, I would imagine she's a very low-ranking member of this clan. And that's probably why she's off on her own at this den site by herself, and why she could potentially be giving birth to young ones right on her own on the fringes of the territory. As far as I know, the rest of the clan has been kind of seen up in Manyeleti and has been denning up in the Manyeleti, so she really is quite a long way from the rest of them. But like I say, if she is a low-ranking female, which I'm sure she is, then she will probably in all likelihood have to go away from the rest of them and find a den site. Now, it's possible that she has been to this den before, or utilized this den before, and so she knew where it was and she's come here to then utilize it again. Like I was saying, the tracks that are around the den, when Genre and I just had a little look, there's not an excessive amount, but there is tracks going back and forth, which means that she has been here before arriving this morning. So it's not like she's just come in and just found herself a place to lie down. She's definitely been back and forth from this area. Crystal is informing me that Gwen is short for Ngwenya, which Ngwenya is the local word for crocodile. I'm not sure why she's gotten that name. I don't know if maybe, Crystal, you can elaborate and let me know as to how she got this name or why she was named Ngwenya. It's an unusual name for a hyena. Maybe it's because of her character, or maybe she had an interaction with the crocodile. I'm not sure. It'd be really nice to hear from you, Crystal, and if you can let us know as to why she was named that, it would be very, very interesting. But nonetheless, she is still quite a beautiful female. Like I say, unfortunately, she's a bit tatty around the ears. I saw Jamie just now, and she was telling me that she saw this particular hyena get quite a hard time from some others, and so that's why those ears are so badly damaged. All those bites on the edges there is because as a low-ranking female, she's going to get bullied quite excessively by the bigger, older girls. And you can actually see how well she camouflages when it becomes bright light like that. You can see it looks like just a dark hole and you can hardly see anything in there. But there, her little ear sticks out. And so it is the perfect place, I would imagine, on a hot day to spend time as well. It will be nice and cool. There's a nice breeze that's probably going into that hole. So she's really found herself a winning position. And you can imagine for little ones, it's a great place. It's quite a hidden termite mound, this. It's in a little sort of, it's got like a moat around it, in a thicket. And there's a beautiful breeze that will blow through that hole. So it'll be nice and ventilated. And it is the perfect place to raise little ones. The only problem is that this is in an area where Karula and the cubs spend a lot of time, so they're going to be a threat to any hyena, especially one that's by herself trying to raise her cubs. So in that regard, it's going to be a little bit tough, but now Nick would like to know why low-ranking female hyenas go off on their own. So Nick, the reason is that being a low-ranking female means that the higher-ranking females and the higher-placed females are going to want to utilize the best spots. All right. So if they've now found themselves a really nice den site up in the Manyeleti, and there's lots of food available up there, there's very low pressure from lions and leopard, then they're going to want to utilize those spots for themselves. They want their offspring to survive, and so because they are higher up, they can then push their weight around and take those prime areas to themselves. So a lower ranking female unfortunately doesn't have that luxury. She can't challenge those higher ranking females. She can't try and push them out of dens, and so she's got to move further afield from the clan to find a suitable den site that is going to be easy for her, or not easy, but better for her to raise her cubs. And so that's why she pushes away slightly, and she tries to then find another area where it's going to be suitable for raising of cubs. It's not because she wants to. She would probably and ideally like to den with those higher ranking females, but generally the mounds are not big enough for 10, 12 hyenas to den together. So she's got to find her own den and then make use of that there. Now, I know hyenas are supposed to be very, very ugly, but isn't that the cutest face, just sitting there propped up in the hole of that mound? She looks absolutely content. It's about as happy as a hyena could look, or as content as a hyena could look. Very, very, very cool. She seems like quite a character, this female. Well, it's an interesting question that Leslie has asked. She wants to know that if the rest of her clan finds those babies, will they potentially harm the babies? In all likelihood, no. All right. Even though she is a low-ranking member and she does get bullied and she gets kind of pushed around, she is still part of the clan, and they will still recognize her scent as part of the clan. So what you'll find is that those hyenas would arrive here, they would pick up her scent, they would know that this is a clan member, and ultimately that those young ones that are born into the clan are strengthening the clan. So instead of killing them and weakening the clan, they know that that's going to be absorbed in, and later they could be vitally important for helping to secure territory and to secure food sources. So at the end of the day, they'll definitely not kill those. They'll try and look after them as much as they can. All right. If a rival clan comes in here, then yes, they could potentially kill them, but her own clan, no. All right. Even though she's a low-ranking female, doesn't matter. She'll still be looked after by the clan. Now, Cam would like to know how the ranking system works and how it is established in hyenas. Well, it's mostly done through lineage. So, as the hyena is born, depending on its mother, will depend where it kind of sits. And so if it's a high-ranking female, then generally as a little baby, it's going to have access to more food than the others. So that female will chase the little babies away and all the others away and allow her young ones to feed. And so that means that her young ones generally get bigger and stronger much faster, and therefore can dominate the other ones. By the time they get to adults, they are dominating, and the others know that that is the big dominant female within the group. So it's all to do with their mothers and where their mothers are placed as to how much food and how much care that they get. Alright, like I say, the higher ranking their mother, the better looked after they're going to be and the more food they're going to get. And so that's how it's established. It could potentially, and sometimes we do see that some of the females that are slightly lower ranked, they get bigger and stronger, and they will sometimes compete for a higher ranking, and you'll find that then a fight will ensue. And I have actually seen cases where they've bitten each other to the point where the other one has actually died from its wounds. So it can get to that, but generally it's more run along a lineage. And so if you are born to that high-ranking female, then generally because of the amount of food and care that you get, you tend to grow up and be a high-ranking member of the clan from there. So that's how it's all worked out. And like I say, there are exceptions to the rule, and sometimes fights do ensue. Well, this is an interesting one from Mary. She says, if they're treated so badly, why don't they leave the clan? Well, Mary, I would imagine that the reason that they don't leave the clan is because a hyena on its own is really going to struggle in life. Okay, it's going to be very difficult to protect itself. You must remember that hyenas, the reason why they're so successful is because they are a clan. They are able to come together when they are being attacked, or if they need a big food item, and let's say it's lions on a buffalo kill, then all the hyenas come together and they could potentially then chase those lions off and confront the lions to be able to get some of that food. So if this hyena goes on its own, it's going to be far more vulnerable to other predators and also to a lack of food. So life is going to be a lot tougher than just being bullied for a few days and being bitten on the ears or bitten on the neck. Ultimately, they still do get some care from that clan, and they do get protection from the clan. So the older females, if let's say lions had to come in and start attacking them, that noise would attract the rest of the clan, and they would come in and try and help this lower ranking female. So even though they're lower ranking and they don't get treated that well, they still get looked after. And so it's much better to have a clan system that can look after you than to have absolutely nothing. And that's why they still stick part of the clan. But Gwen seems very, very content. Like I say, I would imagine that those little ones must still be very small. Well, here's another interesting question as well, because so Justin S would like to know whether hyenas have been domesticated or if people have attempted to raise them. Yes, there have been quite a few people that have attempted to raise hyenas, and actually very successfully. Funny enough, a hyena actually does respond well to people, and there is a group of people or a tribe of people in Nigeria that actually keeps them as pets, and they walk around with these hyenas on leashes, much like a dog. And it's, as far as I understand, it's actually a gang that is up there, and they use it also to intimidate people. And then in Ethiopia, there's a guy that actually can feed the hyenas by hand and even puts meat in his mouth sometimes, and the hyenas grab it from his mouth. So there are a few places where people have been able to raise hyenas and live alongside them. They apparently are actually not too bad. Once they accept you, they're not aggressive towards you in any way. The thing is with them, though, is if they do potentially bite you, you're going to have a big problem. That jaw is incredibly powerful, and so it's going to do a lot of damage. And if they bite and they taste meat, they could then potentially get that instinct can kick in, and they can then probably attack you quite badly. So it's better not to be raising wild animals. But yes, there are people and places where they have successfully raised hyenas and live alongside them. Alright guys, but we're going to carry on. That is really, really, really exciting that we've managed to find this and to see this hyena inside this den. I really hope that we will see little cubs popping out here at some stage. It would be really nice. Like I say, if she's just given birth, it could be about a 2-week time period before we actually start to see them, but we will definitely come past here regularly to try and see what's going on and to see whether or not she actually has produced cubs and whether or not this will be an active mound for the next few months, which would be really cool. When we were scratching around earlier, I did see another hyena come past here, so there is others that are in the area, and so who knows, maybe we get another one that joins. And sometimes it does happen that 2 low-ranking females will join together and form a little sort of separate den area where they can then be able to raise their cubs together. But either way, even if she doesn't have cubs, she's found herself a really great place to rest for the day. It's a really, really nice mound to spend the day. Like I say, as soon as the sun comes out, it gets quite warm, so nice and shady in there, and perfect place just to rest. So JC would like to know what the hyena uses its laugh for. So the laugh is actually used to basically attract others. So generally you'll find the laugh is only when there is a food source or there is some sort of disruption amongst the hyenas. So potentially, let's say lions are around and they're confronting the lions over a buffalo kill, they start to laugh, and all the other hyenas in that area can hear that, and they know that this is a hyena that is excited, that something is going on, and that will bring all these hyenas in, and they can then provide, well, be a united front that they can then try and either chase that lion, or if it's a food item, that they can all get a bit of their carcass. So that's why they laugh. It's generally in times when they are very, very excited. So you just got to dodge some trees that have been pushed over by some naughty elephants. There we go. It's been a very good hyena morning. We've seen quite a few this morning, which, like I say, makes a change. It's been very quiet with the hyena front in this part of the reserve the last few months. So it's really good to see them back again. And it's almost like with the absence of the Inkahumas, that these hyenas know that it's now at least a little bit safer to come and start raising young ones, and so hopefully we'll see them all start coming back again. It would be really nice if the whole clan ended up back at Djuma and denning again. I was actually saying to Jandre earlier, I wonder if this female didn't den here or look for this den because of Karula. So Karula and her cubs had an impala carcass right where we are now, and we know that it was here for about 3-4 days before hyenas stole it. So it's very, very possible that that hyena found that carcass and has eaten off it, and while she was eating on it, she remembers that there's a den here, goes and checks it out, has her young ones there, and is then going to stay in this area. So it could be that she just found this area again because of that scent of the carcass, which would be quite interesting. And I can actually see her tracks are all coming down the road here, so she's been moving quite a bit up and down. So obviously been in this area for a number of days now. But it's amazing how they also remember where they have dens, and you know, it's potentially she could have been born in one of these dens. She could have been in fact born in that den itself, and that's why she's come back. She remembers that area and knows that it was a good place for her when she grew up, and it's why she's going to utilize it again. It's always so incredible. You would think that after a year or two of not utilizing a mound that they would kind of forget about it, and given that there are so many termite mounds spread out throughout this area, you would think that they would just find another one. But at the end of the day, I suppose when you've got a termite mound that's already been excavated, it's already been carved perfectly for young ones, it was a mound that potentially was successful for that female in the past, it's no wonder that they go back to seek that area. We're just heading up towards Buffelshoek Dam slowly. It has started to warm up a little bit, so I'm really hoping that maybe we'll get some elephants or some buffalo coming down to have a little drink late this morning. It would be quite nice if we got some of them. But as we're driving along, it's really very, very pretty. Lots of butterflies and beautifully green. You'll see some of the butterflies flittering about here. Most of these are what's called brown-veined whites. You can see the little white ones there. And so it's really a very, very pretty scene here. Not easy to keep them in frame. They tend to change direction quite quickly, but they're all sitting here feeding off the nectar that's coming off some of the flowers that we see. So on that flannel weed, there's a couple yellow little flowers that are coming out. So they're on that. There's a couple foxgloves that have got some flowers. So all in all, a really nice place to be for a butterfly. Alright, so while we carry on towards Buffelshoek Dam, we're going to go across to Jamie and see what she's been getting up to.
The things that I've been up to are many. I went to go and see Tundi. She is looking absolutely lovely up in a marula tree. Unfortunately, we couldn't find any signal either. The reason I'm racing along Gowrie Main, racing significantly and sort of trying to beat away the dust of the car in front of me, is that there are wild dogs on Arathusa. There's quite a few people waiting to go and see them. So what I'm hoping is that if I hang around here, there's a chance that they might come onto Djuma, in which case we get to jump the queue, because not everybody can drive on Djuma. Mongoose! Things racing everywhere. But yeah, I'm hoping that perhaps that might occur before the end of the sunrise safari. So that's where we're racing to. It was lovely to see Tundi. She's looking very happy, very full, very contented. Hopefully she decides to move out of that. It's a massive, massive dip that she's in. Oh, we have a tree with us. Just see this little green flag. Little green flag waving. Wild Earth is coming. Okay, let me slow down, and sorry, I just have to listen now to hear what those dogs are doing, because we might have raced all the way here, but where they are, they could go south, in which case they go out of our traverse area. If they go east here, they're out of our traverse area. So essentially we've got to hope they go north, east. That would be ideal. I like the fact that Ryan stopped in front of me. That's positive. Let me just hang back here. I'm sorry, now this is the boring part of a wild dog chase. I just need to listen. I'm go find out from Ryan. It might be easier. Find out what's happening. Fourth standby. Thank you very much. Which way are they going?
Flat, apparently, on the one next to the one sock.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. Cheers, Ryan. We'll see you later. Such a legend. Let us wait and see. It could be that we have raced here for nothing, because it might be that we end off our sunrise safari. What's the time? No, we're not going to make it. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get to see them. It's just so close towards the end of the sunrise safari, and there's a queue of people that are waiting to see them. So to explain this to our new viewers, because it might be a bit confusing, we have a very strict protocol to make sure that the animals aren't overpressurized by vehicles. So what I mean by that is you only get a certain number of vehicles allowed in each sighting. Usually it's 3, but it can be 2 or it can be 1 if it's a sensitive situation, if it has cubs, for example, or something like that. So that is controlled through a radio that we all communicate, in theory, and communicate with each other where everything is. The reason I say in theory is that we sometimes struggle with our radios over here. But what that means is that people sort of take a line up in order to go and have a look at the animal concerned. So you spend the rest of your time wandering about. Unfortunately, the dogs are flat. They're sleeping. So that wasn't what I was expecting. I was hoping they'd move towards Djuma and then we could have just slipped in and taken over. But unfortunately, no such luck. So I don't think we're going to manage to get to see the wild dogs today. But it's good prospects for this afternoon. The sunset safari. And now I'm just really bumbling about on Arathusa. This is not where I expected to be today. I haven't been here in ages. Wonder where Shadow is. Red Dam, agreed. Oh, we tried. We had a wonderful morning with leopard cubs though. Just unsuccessful Tundi and unsuccessful wild dogs. We didn't get to see the return of the hyenas. If all else fails, sometimes birds will too. Don't fly away. You can hear them fluttering about in there. White-crested helmet shrikes to add to my bird list. I give up though. I'm definitely not in the running for the bird total this month. I don't know how Tristan's been doing. Right. Onwards. Sounds like happy guides talking about the wild dogs. From what I can hear, from what Sean was saying, it sounds like it's a different pack. It might be the Sands pack. I'm not sure. I'll let you know on the Sunset Safari which particular pack of wild dogs it is. Oh, woe is me. We tried. So while I have an unexpected bumble around Arathusa, let's go back to James, who is once again examining things closely.
We've got over here a really astounding little caterpillar. I wanted to show you my Waltheria caterpillars, but I found a little one here, and it seems to be eating silk or making silk, or I'm not sure what it's doing. But it's very, very minute. So minute, in fact, that I think it's to be probably only about... I can barely see it with my naked eye. It's less than 1 millimeter long. Isn't that cool? Less than 1 millimeter long. Utterly invisible to the naked eye, just about. All I can see is a little black head. That's very cool. And as Rebecca says, look at that blue. Yes, blue and gold and black spikes. Now let's move to the other ones. I'm just going to shift this slightly. There they are. They're not very active this morning at all. They're not dead. You can see them all breathing, and I wonder if the time for them to pupate hasn't arrived already. Anyway, I've been giving them many, many fresh Waltheria leaves on a daily basis. You can just see them sort of oozing about the place. And there are a couple of living ones. Well, they're all living, but I'll just show you. Sorry, I know this is a little bit disconcerting. Like this. Oops. There, this one is moving about the place. I don't know if they spin themselves cocoons. I suspect they probably don't. They may just pupate as they are. But this, you can see they definitely produce silk that probably ties the leaf together and gives them a bit of protection. You know, what's quite interesting, I'll tell you what I'll do. Just come back here, Rebecca, a sec, if you don't mind. What they've done, here, is they've almost folded the leaf over themselves. And I wonder if they don't just use that as protection when they pupate. It could well be what happens. They might just sort of pull the leaf over themselves, get inside there and pupate as they are. They'll be very tiny slightly disappointing little moths if this is as big as they get. Anyway, that's what happens. And I would like to show you, only because David and Jandre are not in the tent with me, and Batman won't say anything until afterwards, but this is the lovely pink box that I keep them in. Isn't it nice? I'm not allowed to show my pink box normally. And so what I'm going to do is cover them in a brand new Waltheria leaf in case they're hungry. And then I'll put them on top of another one. And there we shall leave them in comfort until the next time we are in the tent. Now, the raven, you're wondering about whether or not we have any invasive species of insects here in the Kruger. There's an invasive mollusk, a single-striped snail, I think it's called, or single-banded snail. That's an invasive species. I don't think it does a huge amount of harm, but we don't really know where it's from or what it does. I think it's actually from Europe somewhere. But other than that, no, I can't think of any invasive insect species that we get here. No, I think we're pretty safe on that front. On a completely different tack, I have continued my leopard reading for the morning, and the most interesting thing I've just discovered is that the research shows, and this is research in one of sort of the authoritative text, that formal research on leopard hunting shows that leopards catch every 1 in 2.7 times that they hunt. Now, that research was done in northern Namibia, so it will almost certainly be different here. But we often talk about them catching, yes, maybe 1 in every 7, 1 in every 6 times that they try and hunt, sometimes 1 in every 8. I think leopards are much more successful than that. I'm going to say that in an area like this, especially this time of the year with the little impala, I'm going to say that 1 in 2.7 stalks is probably more accurate for here than some of the lower numbers that we give you. And of course, we often talk about wild dogs as being the most successful hunters out here, those that Jamie are going towards. They've probably made their kill already. 7 out of 10 times that they chase, they catch. That's also starting to look more and more like it might be an inaccurate statistic, and that it's probably much more likely that 3 out of 10 times that they actually follow through on a hunt, they might catch, but they do a lot of other runs at antelope and then decide, no, that's not worth it. And those aren't always measured as stalks and as hunts. So that's quite interesting, I think. Just getting a little question coming through here. Oh, consulting detective, you're obviously worried about my caterpillars and whether they have something to drink in there. They don't drink water. They will get all of their water needs from the leaves that they eat. You don't find them sort of trooping off in a great line towards the Djuma pan, having a drink and then coming back to the Waltheria plants outside the tent. So no, they'll get everything that they need from the leaves that they eat. Now, everybody, please remember that tomorrow we are moving times, okay? So we will be going to 5:30 for the start of the sunrise safari tomorrow. That is because sunrise has moved. So yes, the season has progressed far enough for us to be moving the sunrise safari out by 1/2 hour. Siberia Zumi, you're wondering about whether I've named my caterpillars. I started naming them, but of course, because I have this habit of using alliteration to name things, I couldn't think of enough names that began with C, and so I gave up naming the caterpillars, and they're just going to be the caterpillars for the rest of their lives until they become moths or butterflies. And that is the story of the caterpillars. So you will remember that, will you? Don't join us late tomorrow, 5:30. Okay, everyone, that is going to be it from us. I'm not sure if, yes, this will probably be the final time you see me this morning. I will see you this afternoon on Drive. Thank you for joining us in the tent, and for the last few minutes, let's head back to Jamie.
What a lovely morning it has been. Unfortunately, no chance to see those wild dogs, but I'm sure we can try again in the afternoon. That roller took me seriously by surprise. It flew right next to the vehicle. Nice way to end off. European roller in the sun. Aren't they beautiful? They always surprise me with how big they are when they're right up close to you. It's a bird that looks like it could give you a really serious bite if you interfered with it. Well, there we go. I might not be the birding champion this month, but I did find a nice European roller to finish off our morning. Oh, lovely to hear about the return of our hyenas. I've been looking while I've been driving along, and there are tracks absolutely everywhere. I cannot wait to see whether or not Gwen does have cubs, or if she's going to give birth to cubs. I am unbelievably excited after an absence of, what's it now? Not quite a year. About 8 months? 10 months? 8 months. An absence of 8 months of our hyenas in their den sites. The possibilities of the return is truly exciting. And then, of course, the leopard cubs, I'm sure, will still be around for this afternoon's sunset safari. So if I were you, I would most definitely not miss out. Fly just bit me. Because there's all sorts of exciting things. And a sudden realization that I'm not actually driving this afternoon. So there you go. I won't see you this afternoon. I will see you tomorrow morning for the sunrise safari. Okay. Which will start, thank you, Rebecca. I completely forgot about that. The sunrise safari tomorrow morning will start half an hour later due to the fact that our days are getting shorter, which is very sad. But yes, our days are getting shorter, sunrise is getting later, so we are starting our sunrise safari half an hour later. So don't forget that. Don't get up too early, or anyway, you know what I mean. On that note, it is nearly the end of our sunrise safari. Thank you to Viam for his wonderful camera work. Thank you, Viam. That was fun. It was a fun morning. Thank you to Bex and Jerry in Final Control. And most importantly, thank you to all of you for joining us across the world. Join us to find out what happens this afternoon, and of course to hear the end point of this bird competition that is occurring. Bye-bye, everybody. I will see you tomorrow morning. Have a lovely day.